4 hours. What? In today's video, we are talking about Italian things that I don't understand. I've been living here for 12 years and there are still things which I don't quite get. Make sure you stick around towards the end of the video because I'm going to talk about the one thing that really gets on my nerves that I still don't understand. Alright, cominciamo. Now 12 years on, I have a much better idea as to why the Italians strike in the way that they do, but I must say when I first came here, I thought it was a complete mystery. What I'm referring to are public transit strikes. This is something that used to really affect me before I got a car. And by the way, yeah, sorry for my fancy YouTube studio here, but when you live with a toddler, it's not exactly easy to create the right conditions to make a video. But anyway, the oddest thing that struck me was seeing strikes that lasted 4 hours. In the States, I had never seen this. A strike that lasts only 4 hours, and then after 4 hours, everything's back to normal. What? Before coming here, my idea of a strike was the American way. You know, when you strike, you think of workers on a picket line and they don't go back to work until their demands are met. I do understand a bit better as to how they do that. Let me explain. It is something that is always pre-announced and you have to have authorization to do it. And you can never really do a total strike. There has to be some public service available. It's never a total lockdown. Let's put it to you that way. And yet there's always a glimmer of hope because there's always at least one or two drivers who don't adhere to the public strike. I don't know why. Maybe they just don't care. I don't know. After every strike, there's always something that I ask myself. Okay, the strike from yesterday, those 4 hours where there was limited service, what did that accomplish? What was the result of all of this? Aiutatemi. If you're Italian and you're watching this, or if you've been living here for many years, explain this concept to me. Is there something that I'm missing? This next one refers to voting. So here's how this works. Very often when elections are coming up, you will see a lot of people put up posters. And what they'll do is you will see the person's face and then you'll see a gigantic X for their face. I swear, the first time that I saw that, my subconscious took over and my brain told me, don't vote for this guy, absolutely not. No. What it means is when you go to the ballots, then you put an X through it and it means that you want to vote for this person. I don't know, for me in general, when I put an X through something, it means no. Kind of like no smoking. Magari. In my view, I think the Italians have a different idea as to what personal space entails, as opposed to somebody who comes from the United States or other English-speaking countries. With that said, I think this contributes to a rather annoying concept when I'm walking in public. So very often when I'm walking and somebody else is coming towards me, I almost get the impression that they're going to walk right into me and then they swerve at the last minute. This might explain how they drive too. Something I'd like to tell them but I don't because I think it would be a bit abrupt would be, what am I, invisible here? Speaking of walking in public, they also do something else that I don't quite comprehend really. And this is stopping in the middle of wherever they are to get organized. Now, if you look at this picture that I took a couple of days ago, you'll see a woman who's talking on her phone in the middle of the sidewalk. Now, obviously, anybody who wants to go around her can, and that's pretty much what happens here. You know, when you see somebody who does this, they just simply go around them. Okay, problem solved. The problem that I see is this. I think people that are prone to this kind of behavior would do this in multiple situations. Maybe in situations where you really do create a problem for other people. This could be if you are in an enclosed area and by you standing in the middle of wherever you are, you know, you're blocking the flow of traffic and you could create problems for other people. Standing in the middle of a doorway or maybe standing at the top of the stairs and maybe the guy behind you has got some heavy luggage and he has to stop and, oh God, it's annoying. That has happened to me before actually. The approach some people might take is, oh, what's the problem? I'll just move, okay. Well, the problem are the situations that I've just mentioned before. I believe in preventative action. Let's just put it to you that way. This video is not intended to mock the Italians. This is really just a cultural observation, or better yet, an invitation to discussion. So here is another example of Italians not respecting personal space. So we stopped by a small town dedicated to the Saint Rita. It was called Roccoporena, I think it's called, yeah. So I parked the car and we were in a gigantic parking lot. There was just a lot of space available. So I get out and I get the stroller out and I begin putting my daughter in the stroller. I take a slight step back and I nearly bumped into this guy who was passing behind me. I was just kind of surprised. You know, we both said, excuse me. But then I thought about that for a moment. I thought, you've got all this space to not bump into me and yet you chose to pass within millimeters of my body. I have a proposal for Italy, America, and any other country that drives on the right side of the road. If you are walking up a sidewalk, stick to the right and the other guy sticks to his right. This way there's no confrontation. Am I a bit exaggerated in regards to my approach to these personal space issues? Possibly, but I believe in preventative action. Let's just put it to you that way. This next one is something that I saw while walking around the other day, and I know why they do it. It's something that I never saw while I was in the United States, at least not my generation. So what I saw was this. There was a guy in a truck, and on top of the truck, he had a megaphone, and there was a recording. The recording was announcing a service. I think they were plumbers, and they were just repeating over and over again what their services are. The first time I heard that, I had absolutely no idea what that was. My first thought was, are we at war? What's going on? Is this a warning? Even now, I still wonder how effective that really is. I mean, how many customers do they get on any given day, really? And to be honest, I think it's a tad annoying. But whatever, that's the price you pay when you live in a big city. Hey, if this method helps them get more customers, then so be it. You know, they gotta eat too. Local stores closing down in the middle of the afternoon. Now, to be clear, I think this is something that you see more in the South. I can't speak for the North because I never lived there, so if you are from the North, does this happen where you live? But anyway, here's what happens. Around 1 or 2 o'clock, you will see local stores closing down. And they'll stay closed until 4, 5, whatever. They're usually closed for about 2 to 3 hours. I must admit, while I was living in the South, this affected me a bit more. And it was irritating, you know. Because very often in the afternoon, I had things I wanted to do, but I can't. You know, they're put on hold because all the shops that I had to go to, they were home having lunch. My own personal theory is that I think this was set up for families. You know, if a store closes at 2 o'clock, this is when the kids come home from school, and then the whole family comes home and they can have lunch together. Then when they finish lunch, the store owner can go back to the store, open up, and then stay open until the evening. This next one truly baffles me. Now, in regards to driving here, most Italians still prefer to drive a manual transmission. I see both points of view. I learned how to drive stick in America, actually, so I've driven both automatic and manual transmission. There's pros and cons to both, really, but what really confuses me, what I just don't get, is why some Italians say, no, sorry, I can't drive an automatic transmission. I mean, for me, it's weird. I always thought driving automatic was one of the easiest things in the world, you know. Put it in park and hit the gas and you go. You know, you don't have to worry about changing gears. I always try to see it from their point of view. Try is the key word here. I think they feel this way, and I can sum it up in just one word. Habit. Yeah, it's as simple as that. When you're used to changing the gears yourself, you do feel like you are in better control of the car. Full control, if you will. If the car is doing it for you, then I guess you might feel a bit lost, helpless, like, am I even driving? By the way, my car is in fact an automatic transmission. And it's actually not bad here in Rome because very often you're stuck in traffic, you're not moving, and it's nice not to have to constantly keep changing gears when you're not moving. Otherwise, if I'm driving in non-urban areas or somewhere in the mountains, then oh, absolutely, manual. For this next one, I really don't know how to put a label on it. I really don't know what the oddity is. You try and make some sense of it. Okay, so here's what happened. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was living in Salerno. One evening, I went to a friend's house, and it was kind of like a dinner party. And most of us were native English speakers. We were from all over the world. At one point, we looked out the window, and we noticed that in the building across from us, there was another dinner party going on. So when we saw this, we all decided to all go out on the balcony, and we thought, hey, maybe if we wave at them, we can get their attention, maybe they can come over, who knows? So that's what we did. It took about a minute or two before they actually noticed us, but then something unexpected happened. They all started coming out one by one onto the balcony, and they did this. Yeah, it was a bit of a disappointment, to be honest. To this day, I still can't explain their reaction. The host of the party was this Scottish girl, and she was kind of annoyed, and rightly so. And then eventually she said this. She said, you know, if we had done this in any other English-speaking country, then they would have kind of copied our energy. They would have just done the same thing as us. And I tend to agree. However, let's not generalize. I'm not going to dare say that this is something which is typically Italian. You know, I'm not saying that this is something that's going to happen in every situation in Italy. No. However, I do agree with what the Scottish girl said. I have some good news. For as much as I complain about the bumpy roads here in Rome, once in a while, and especially in the recent past, they do pave them and driving has become a bit more relaxing. However, what I don't get is this. What tends to happen is first they'll pave the road, but then what I don't see are lines and lanes, and it doesn't create major problems really. But I like them. You know, I use the lines to gauge my driving. What tends to happen, however, is that they will add the lines weeks after the paving is done. Now, I find this odd because whenever this happened in the United States, the lines were added immediately afterward. To be honest, I think that's just a bit safer. I don't know. There's probably a bureaucratic reason for which this happens, but I don't know. I'm biased, but I prefer the American way. Now, I can't speak for the rest of Italy, but that is what I've seen here in Rome. Talking at once. For as long as I live here, this is something that I will simply never get used to. My brain just simply can't handle having multiple voices talk to me at the same time. It's just like information overload. This could be because at times I have problems focusing. See? But I think more realistically, it's because it's a foreign language, and so my brain always has to work double, even though I've lived here for many years. I mean, quite often, I have to focus all my energy when I'm talking to just one person. Go figure if it's two or more. This also leads into the next one, and this is interrupting. Now, I don't mean to say that the Italians are constantly interrupting each other, that every single conversation has a bunch of overlapping voices. No. But from personal experience, I just think that it happens a bit more here than it does in English-speaking countries. That's just been my experience. However, from these last two, I have learned something very important. It is very easy to think, oh, the Italians are rude. My God, they're all talking at once. They're all interrupting each other. Not necessarily the case. There are plenty of people who do it in a rude way. But I think the majority of Italians do this just because this is what they're used to. This is how they grew up. With that said, I think it's important to remember that they don't do it maliciously. They just do this because it's what they're used to. So when you're conversing with an Italian, I think it's important to keep this in mind. For this week's expression, since we're talking about Italian things that we don't understand, I thought it might be useful to translate the phrase, how does that make sense? And in Italian, you would say it this way, ma che senso ha? Also, if you want to say, it doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, then you would say it this way, non ha senso. If by chance you've made it this far in the video, then leave me a sono qui in the comments. Much appreciated, thank you. Make sure you drop me a mi piace if you enjoyed today's video, and also if you want to see more videos like this, more videos where I discuss Italian culture, then click on the playlist that you're seeing on your screen right now. Grazie mille per l'attenzione, ci vediamo alla prossima. Thank you for watching, appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.